A hush fell over the courtyard when the younger son spoke. His words did not shout, yet they struck like a blade. "Father, give me my share of the inheritance." In their world, such a request was unthinkable. An inheritance was divided after death. To ask for it early was to say, "I wish you were already gone." Servants lowered their eyes. The older brother stiffened, and the father, weathered by years of labor and love, felt the weight of public shame settle on his shoulders. Yet he did not raise his voice. He did not strike his son. With hands that trembled only slightly, he divided his life's work and placed a portion into the younger son's hands. Love, in that moment, absorbed the insult without retaliation. Not many days later, the younger son gathered everything he had and left. Dust rose beneath his sandals as he walked away from the only home he had ever known. Ahead of him lay a distant land and the intoxicating promise of freedom. No rules, no watchful eyes, no father to answer to. At first, the world welcomed him warmly. Music filled the nights. Laughter echoed through crowded rooms. Money flowed easily, and with it came friends who praised his generosity and mirrored his excess. He tasted pleasure without restraint and believed he had finally found life. But wealth has a way of disappearing quietly. Coin by coin, opportunity by opportunity, his resources drained away. When the money was gone, so were the friends. And as if to expose the emptiness of everything he had chosen, a famine swept through the land. Hunger replaced celebration. Pride gave way to desperation. He took work wherever he could find it and ended up in a field feeding pigs, unclean animals, to a Jewish audience, the lowest place imaginable. The stench clung to him. His stomach twisted with hunger as he watched the animals eat, longing for the pods they devoured. No one noticed. No one cared. That was where the silence finally reached him. Alone among the pigs, the young man remembered his father's house not as a place of rules, but of provision. Even the hired servants there had enough to eat, and here he was, wasting away. For the first time, he did not blame his father. He did not blame the world. He saw himself clearly. "I have sinned," he whispered, not only against his father, but against heaven itself. He did not rehearse excuses. He did not plan demands. He only prepared a confession and a hope small enough to survive disappointment. "I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants." So he rose and turned back toward home. What he did not know was that his father had never stopped watching the road. Day after day, the father had scanned the horizon, eyes trained on the distance, and when he saw a familiar figure, thin, broken, walking slowly with head bowed, he did not wait. The father ran. In that culture, a dignified man did not run. Yet love overruled custom. He ran through dust and stairs, reached his son, and embraced him before a word could be spoken. The son's confession spilled out between sobs, but the father did not let him finish. "Quick," he called, "bring the best robe, put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet." The signs were unmistakable: robe for honor, ring for authority, sandals for sonship. This was not a servant being tolerated. This was a son being restored. "Kill the fattened calf," the father said. "Let us celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." Music filled the house once more, but this time it was the sound of grace. Outside the celebration stood the older brother. He heard the music and burned with anger. He had obeyed. He had stayed. He had worked. And yet no feast had ever been thrown for him. When the father came out to plead with him, the older son's bitterness surfaced. "All these years I've served you," he said, "and you never gave me even a young goat. But this son of yours wastes everything, and you celebrate him." The father's voice was gentle but firm. "My son, you are always with me, and all that I have is yours. But we had to celebrate. Your brother was dead and is alive again. He was lost, and now he is found." The story ends without telling us whether the older brother went in. The question lingers because it was never only about the sons. It was about the father, a father who allows rebellion rather than forcing love, a father who waits without giving up hope, a father who runs toward repentance and restores without hesitation. Grace does not erase responsibility, but it always opens the door to return. And now the story turns toward the listener. Will you come home in humility, or will you stand outside, convinced you have earned what was always meant to be received? The road is still watched. The arms are still open. The question is not whether the Father will forgive, but whether you will step toward him.